I'm going to go over ratios and proportions. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities using division. Oh, sorry. And it can be written as a fraction, like if we're comparing girls to boys, like this. Or it can be written as a ratio, like this. And then an extended ratio is when you're comparing more than two things. And this one is done only with the colons, because that would look really weird. As a fraction, it would be 3, and we don't write them that way. All right, so it says the ratio of measures of the angles of a triangle are 3, 4, and 5. Find the measures of the angles. Remember that all angles of a triangle add up to be 180. So we're just going to put x's with these and add them together. So 3x plus 4x plus 5x is equal to 180. 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 12. And then divide both sides by 12, and x is 15. But it wants to know what the measures of each angles are, so we plug it back in. 3 times 15, 4 times 15, and 5 times 15. So 3 times 15 is 45 degrees. 4 times 15 is 60 degrees, and 5 times 15 is 75 degrees. And those are the measures of all three angles of that triangle. Now, proportions are a comparison of two fractions. And it always says that they're equal. So an equation stating that two ratios are equal. And then cross product, which is, some people call it the butterfly method or cross multiplying. They all mean the same thing. It's the product of the means and the extremes. Which is just a complicated way to say that you cross multiply these. So A times D is also equal to B times C. That's all it is. All right, then we have some problems to work on. So we're going to do cross multiply this way, 4x times 2. Now, this part I actually normally don't write. I'm just writing it for your notes. I actually would go ahead and multiply it out whenever I write it. Same thing with this one. I would go ahead and distribute that 5 before I wrote it down. I'm just showing y'all how to multiply it. So 2 times 4x is 8x. And then 5 times x and 5 times 3. So I would normally just write this. I would start there. I wouldn't actually write the other piece. Unless you mess up the distributing. I can't talk today. I'm so sorry. So if you're afraid of messing up the distributing, go ahead and write the colorful part. Now we subtract 5x from both sides. Divide by 3 on both sides. And x is 5. On this side, we cross multiply. Now this one I would write, because we're going to have to FOIL this. And then 4 times 14. Okay, so multiplying binomials. Some of you learned the FOIL, and some of you might have learned the box method. So FOIL just means that you're going to multiply the first two. So x times x is x squared. The O and FOIL are multiplying the outsides together. So -1 times x is -x. And then the I part of FOIL is multiplying the insides together. So -2 times x. And then the L stands for last. So that's multiplying these last two things together. So -2 times -1 is a +2. And 4 times 14 is 56. So that is FOIL. Some of you may have been taught using the box method this way. So you would do x and -2 and x and -1. X times x is x squared, which is how we got this. X times -2 is -2x, which is how we got this. X times -1 is -x, which is how we got this. And then -1 times -2 is a +2, which is how we got that. So you could FOIL it or you could do the box method. I don't care either way, as long as you can get this part of it. All right, so we need to combine the middle parts. -x minus 2x is -3x. I need to move that 56 over. No, minus 54, sorry. Okay, now I can actually factor this because it has to equal 0. I need factors of 54 that add to give me -3 and multiply to give me -54. So 54 is 1 and 54, 2 and 27, 3 and 18. 4 doesn't go into 54, 5 doesn't go into 54, and then 6 and 9. Now this one, if I do -9 and +6, that will add to give me -3. So it would be x plus 6 and x minus 9. X plus 6 equals 0, x minus 9 equals 0, x is -6, and then x is 9. And yes, both of those would be your answer because this is just pure algebra. It is not a real world type geometry problem. Now remember, the shortcut from you don't necessarily have to write this part. You just change these signs for your answers. So this is a +6 and a -x. My answers are the opposite signs of those. All right, this says Byron is measuring plants in a field for a science project. Of the first 25 plants he measures, 15 of them are shorter than a foot of height. And then if there are 4,000 plants in the field, predict the total number of plants shorter than a foot in height. All right. So it says 15 of them are shorter out of a total of 25. So we're doing how many are short over a total. It always helps to write that down because you can keep it straight on both sides of your equal sign whenever you have to set up your own problem. So I do highly suggest that you write that little fraction explanation of how you're going to set up your problem. You don't really have to, but it's a very good idea. So it is 15 short out of a total of 25. That's what the blue part told us. And then the 15 gives us 4,000 total plants. And it wants to know how many of them would be short. So it helps me put that X in the right spot. Then we cross multiply. 25 times X is 25X. 15 times 4,000 is 60,000. Divide by 25 on both sides, and you get 2,400 plants that would be shorter than a foot. All right, last one. It says, Mayor Hernandez conducted a random survey of 200 voters and found that 135 approve of the job she is doing. If there are 48,000 voters in her town, predict the total number of voters who approve the job she's doing. All right. So the first part says 135 approve. So how many approve over the total? So the total that approve are 135 out of a total of 200. And she wants to know if there are a total of 48,000 voters, how many would approve? And this is the way that elections actually work. The problem is they don't necessarily poll the right people. So we're going to cross multiply 200x. Then cross multiply 135 times 48,000 is 6,480,000. Divide by 200 on both sides, and you get 32,400 voters approve. That's the end of your notes.